live show today, Ask a Lawyer show today. I wanted to welcome everybody. I'm doing this from a little bit different location. I have been on a Zoom deposition till about 1 minute ago. We're doing more and more of these. So it's a great technology. It's somebody straighten my bow tie and I need to get it right here. It's one of the great blessings of the hidden silver lining of this crazy time we're in, that lawyers are forcing themselves, and we're forcing ourselves to do business differently. So we are doing Zoom mediation, Zoom depositions. I've done a lot of them where either I'm inquiring of someone or they are being asked questions and I'm defending the deposition. So the deponent will be on there and will answer questions. The lawyers ask it. Very interesting. So today we had connectivity problems with the person who was testifying. So we had to go through that a little bit. I've had, you can have connectivity problems and stuff. I've had hearings where you're all set to go, but the person in wherever Missouri or wherever Illinois doesn't have real good connection. And we know, if you read about it, some of the Wi-Fi bandwidth and stuff in rural Missouri is a little bit constrained and not as good as it may be like in my office where I am now. So you see me in my office. I'm working about 2 days a week this week, 2 to 3 days a week. Some days it's more, it's never less. And I am now, my office, one of the great things about our office, if you can see it with the light differential, is we are right on the Mississippi River. So you forget, working at home and stuff, that there's a whole, there's the river out there. There's the vibrant downtown St. Louis. So it's kind of fun to work here. I've always enjoyed having an office that looks out on the river. It's kind of cool. Kind of enjoy that. So I would like to and so this has been an interesting week. A lot of questions coming up this week, and a lot of ones that I didn't get to in past stuff. I would like to answer some questions. So let me just jump right into the questions that we get today. And thank you for the comments. You can tell I borrowed my friend Bob's webcam because my other cam is being used in a deposition now. So here's a question. I was wondering about a car accident about when a car accident becomes a criminal case, and is it common? That's very interesting. So I was just on a deposition where my client said, yeah, when I got out of the car, the guy smelled like booze. And I told the cops that, but then I went to got in the ambulance and went to the emergency room. So I really don't know what happened. We have other cases where someone has a DUI, or that alcohol is involved in the case. We have had cases. We have a case right now. I was talking to another lawyer right now where there was a road rage incident against my client, and someone pulled in front of him and stopped suddenly. You can have other types of criminal actions. Like I have a case right now where my client was a construction worker blocking off a road. The defendant wanted to get to his place where he lived, went the wrong way up the road, and didn't listen to the construction people flagging them down, saying don't go, and pushed into him and hyperextended his knee. There is also, if someone is going too fast, exceeding the speed limit or by too much, that can be a violation. On your form police report, you're going to have violation codes where people can put that. Sometimes it rises to the level of being that. So the question is, how do you deal with it and what you use? So there's a wide variety of car accident issues that can surround criminal issues, both really bad, more severe stuff, felonies like DUIs, less stuff like failure to yield the right of way. Not that the injury or the impact isn't less, but the level of harm, the level of legal violation is different in kind. So when that happens, we also have tragic cases where I have a death case right now where the family is asking me, "Hey, what's going on with this prosecution?" And what we do is what we don't want to do is what I don't want to do, and though in this more serious cases, is I don't want the civil case to get in the way of the criminal case. So we usually let the civil case take a back seat to the criminal case going forward and being successful. So it was a DUI. It's a really excessive speeding case. It's whatever it is. So we do that. We let that criminal case go forward first. We collect all the medical, let our people treat, and then pursue the civil case thereafter. Hopefully, there's a quick resolution to that. But the evidence of the criminal violation is evidence of negligence in the civil case. So I can put on evidence of a DUI, of a failure to yield, of an excessive speed, wrong side of the road, doing those types of things. I can put that into my case. And there's also something called a per se negligence claim where I don't have to prove negligence. There's a presumption in the law that if you violate a rules of the road or violate a law that's designed to protect the very people who are injured as a result of the violation, you don't have to prove negligence. So you prove it's a separate jury instruction where I prove to someone, I say, hey, you sped, you were drunk, you did this. And then if that's true and you think that caused my client damages, then you have to award my client the full value of those damages. So that's where the interplay between criminal and civil come in. We have many cases. You would think that because someone was in a DUI, was drunk or was guilty of that they would be embarrassed and would settle that case. Not the case. You would believe the number of cases I have to file where it's a DUI case. It's very interesting. And then the issue is if someone has a SIS or SES or it's not, can I get that in evidence? Now, I think I can, and I always do, but it's something that is challenged later. There was one other thing I wanted to say about a criminal case. And I don't. So it's not common, but does happen. That's how we typically deal with it. We want the criminal case to be successful. Oh, so I had a case one time for my friend Chris Smith. It's in a bunch of articles where after the wreck, the defendant tried to leave and my client, it happens to be a security guard and a tough guy. He reached into the defendant's car and took out his keys out of his car and showed him his firearm because my client happened to be a security guard that had a license to carry a firearm and said, you best stay here. And then when the officers came, he said, I have a firearm, et cetera, and everything was okay. But that was crazy. There are times when crazy stuff happens after a crash. We have a case pending right now in St. Charles where there was a physical attack between the people in the wreck from the defendant to the plaintiff after the crash. Let me go to the next question. What's your favorite thing about doing these Ask a Lawyer live streams? It's cool seeing you personally. Great. Thank you. Great to see you as well. I'm not seeing you, Anna, but I do miss seeing people. We're doing a lot of social distancing and isolation, so I do miss seeing my friends at work, other friends. We Zoom. I'm starting a little bit to go meet a friend outside for a lunch or walk somewhere and sit outside. Just very few times. So I think so. I like to see that. I like to see people too. What's my favorite thing about doing? Honestly, the thing that I like to do about these Ask a Lawyer things is I get to answer people questions. I'm put on the spot. I do not prepare for these, and I'm asked questions, and I have to think on the spot, on the fly, and give a thorough, accurate legal answer. Try to encompass all issues. And you know what I do? Sometimes I'll leave one of these, and I'm driving home, and I say, "Oh, I forgot to say this," or "I forgot to say this." It's kind of like a motion argument. I always joke whenever I leave a depot or a motion argument or something, I'm always thinking, oh, what was the question I forgot to ask? Or how could I have made that better? Which is something that from my friends who are good advocates, it's a good quality in an advocate. Don't be so celebratory of how great you did. Sit there and always evaluate your evaluate what you did and see if there's a way you could improve or change what you did, which is always an interesting way to see things or perceive things. All right, let me go to my next question. That's my favorite, is to be on the fly, having to answer these questions. Why are felons not allowed to vote? Oh, great. Here comes my non-prepared. I think the idea is that the felon is not allowed to vote because they surrender their citizenship rights in that way as a felon. There are movements in Florida and other places to give people back the right. It is not a federal law. It is a state law. States often control voting eligibility, and that under various state statutes. But traditionally, a felon, if you commit a felony, you have so violated your societal trust, your commitment to society, that you're not going to be able to vote. You're not going to be entitled to vote. There's no constitutional amendment. What's the difference between bodily injury and personal injury? I thought they were the same thing. They are the same thing. They're essentially the same thing. Bodily injury is often a phrase in insurance agreements and covering insurance policies. So they will say, we will cover you for bodily injury sustained as a result of your negligence. We'll cover you for that. Personal injury is an injury personal to you. Now, they're largely the same. Here's where they diverge a little bit. Advertising injury, libel, slander injury. So if there's a libel or slander type of claim, that's a personal injury, but that's not a bodily injury. It's an injury to your person, to your reputation, but it is not a bodily injury. The other way to distinguish the two a little bit is the emotional distress component of that. So of emotional distress. So emotional distress is not a personal injury. Is not a bodily injury, but it is a personal injury. So some people can have emotional distress damages through non-physical contact, like a employment discrimination claim, or a harassment claim, or an age discrimination claim, or race discrimination. You can be severely emotionally distressed because of that. You get treated differently, terminated, have your life torn apart because of unlawful conduct that's prohibited by state and federal anti-discrimination laws. But they were never struck or anything. Similarly, though, you can be in a car crash and have a lot of pain and have mental anguish and stress because you have pain. You have a herniated disc in your neck. You have a broken arm. You have a face laceration. You can also have the emotional distress of having the Ptsd, the being afraid to drive anymore, being cautious, being nervous about that, especially for really severe car crashes or car wrecks. That is very prevalent, and that does occur. So those are some of the differences. Bodily injury is just to the body, but there's also sequelae results of that to other things. Personal injury is more all-encompassing. Are all law firms alike? Why would someone choose Burger Law versus the other established competition in St. Louis? What makes your team different? Do you try cases more often or get higher settlements? So now that's a question posted by Burger Law. So that's a little bit of a setup question, right? However, interestingly, this morning, I literally had a person with Tiffany, me and Tiffany, my intake specialist, were on the phone with her, and I had to answer these exact questions. She was talking to a couple other big firms in St. Louis and wanted to know that. And the first thing I said to her, well, you're on the phone with Gary Berger of Burger Law. You're not on the phone with the other people in those firms. So I handle these cases personally. So all law firms are not alike. Some law firms are more trial type law firms in there doing depositions, going to trial, arguing motions, filing briefs, arguing to courts, arguing to Supreme and appellate courts. Some people are more of the sign them up, don't really, and then have other people do the work too. Now, I don't want to paint with a broad brush because there are firms that are big advertisers and in billboards and stuff that are great trial lawyers. I don't want to give necessarily a shout out to any one of them, but Josh Myers at Schultz and Myers is kind of a friend of mine. He's a trial lawyer. He tries cases, and so does Schultz. But so there, so it's not. It's not, so I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. That there's not one necessarily, oh, if you're a big advertiser, that means you're not a trial lawyer. That's not it at all. But there are more lawyers that are in the trenches, doing the depositions, doing the trial hard work than others. So that's what we do. I do. I'm in trials. I'm in depots. I write stuff myself. I'm working all the time. I am editing petitions, editing demand letters. I'm working on discovery. I'm talking to clients. I'm giving advice. I am settling cases. I am hammering insurance companies and defendants to pay that. I'm very nitpicky in terms of I don't want to leave any money on the table. I'm very cheap with my own money. I want to make sure I put as much money in my client's pocket as I can. So anybody who knows me will tell me I'm cheap. It's kind of a joke. But no, I mean, I take it seriously. I don't want to leave any money on the table, and I want to have that reputation of always going the extra yard and making sure that I get full value for my clients' cases. The full, not 50%, not 70%, but full value of my clients' cases. And we do all the things. Think of all the ways to get that. You know, anytime in life and in law, you get roadblocks in your cases, and what you want to do is you want to navigate those roadblocks successfully. So I want to do that. And there are other law firms and lawyers that do that too. There's ones that don't do that as well. And so I personally handle the cases. I personally litigate it. Now, I have other lawyers and I have other case managers and other people that work for me. My great lawyer, Genevieve, who did an Ask a Lawyer show a while ago, I just had her jump on the deposition that I just did. I have other lawyers, Tyler, we have other lawyers that do stuff, and we do it together, but we're working together. Genevieve has a great idea. She bounces it off me and vice versa, so we do that. We work as a team. What makes your team different? We care. We are mission driven. We want to do the best for our clients we can. We want to fight the bullies and the insurance companies and the corporations. We want to get everything we can. We want to get great results for our clients. We're very driven in that. Every case is important. I still have gratitude for all the people that hire me, and I take it seriously. And I do thank people for hiring me and thank them for their business when I can. Do you try cases more often or get higher settlements? I try cases, and I think I get higher settlements. I'm told I do. It's hard to compare. There's other lawyers that do good too, but we really push. We really push. We want to get, I don't want to leave any money on the table. I want to get a good result. I was asked that this morning about some other firms, and I said, well, I'm not going to talk bad about any other firms, and I'm not gonna. But I will tell you that we spend a lot of time working the angles, not improperly, but doing everything we're supposed to do to be zealous advocates. On my wall, I'm not in my office, I could show you, but on our wall, I took an oath to be a zealous advocate and zealously represent my clients, and I take it seriously. What are some different types of damages you could get if you win a case? So thanks for putting up the Chris Smith case, guys. The other article, there you go. I see it. There's a great, so in Chris Smith's case, it should be uniquely bad insurance company on the comment. So the insurance company was unique. And so my article that I did, and this is a few years ago, was fighting a uniquely bad insurance company. What are some of the types of different damages you could get if you win a case? Wage loss damages, medical expenses, pain and suffering. Those are all past and future. You may need future surgery or injections or physical therapy. You may have future pain and suffering. You may not be able to work as much as you used to be able to. You may have more wage loss damages than in the future as well as in the past. So those are all damages are in the past and the future. But sometimes you don't have pain and suffering in the future. You know, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you do. Your clients do. It just kind of depends on that. It really does just depend. So In addition, you also have disability or disfigurement damages. You may walk with a limp. You may have a scar. You may not be able to do everything you used to be able to do before the crash, or the slip and fall, or in the medical malpractice case, you may no longer have parts of your body that you did before, whether it's an organ or a leg or whatever it is. So those are the type of damages you get, and we explain those to the jury. In voir dire, the jury doesn't really know how to calculate or figure out damages, and I always say, listen, you don't need to know that now. That's part of the case. We're gonna teach you that. You're gonna learn that as we go through. So we do teach them that as we go through. So those are the types of damages you can win a case. We have different articles on that as well. Brennan asks me, you have a skilled legal team at Burger Law. Is there a trait you look for when you hire people? Is there a trait that you avoid? Well, yeah, I want driven people. I want people that care. I want people that I can sit down. I'd want to sit and talk with, that I like, because I got to hang out with them all the time. I want people that like me, that are similar to me. When I hire people, I do the best I can. I always think that hiring people could be one area that I can improve on. It's not that I haven't done bad. I love the people that I work with, but I end up being really busy, and I don't do like personality tests or some of this stuff. But we have great people here. People that I've been with, one of our guys just had 4 years. I have people here 8 years. Lawyers here, not as long, but I've had different people that work with me for different periods of time, and some people moving on in life for their own practices or different stuff. So, and the other thing is, I want people that are coachable, and want to always hone their craft and improve. So we literally yesterday had an hour-and-a-half Zoom conference with my whole firm where I went over stuff. This is how we do this. This is how we're going to prosecute a case. This is how you do a golden rule letter to a defendant. This is how you do this. Our phones are ringing off the hook. We're going to hire a new intake person. So I have training. I have CLEs. I want someone who always is going to hone their practice, someone who wants to learn, to improve themselves. I have folks here who, and I've had the joy to work with students and different stuff who get better. It's fun to see people learn stuff and get better. So I guess coachable and it is also one, and someone who cares. I don't care if you mess something up. I don't want you to mess it up after I've coached you on it 10 times and you've been working with me for 2 years. But at the same time, that's how we learn. Some of the ways I have a lot of processes for how I do things here. We have ways we do discovery, ways we file lawsuits, ways we take depositions, ways we do all this stuff. Talk to clients. I have a lot of form emails. We're a very systematized practice. We try to have as many systems as we can. And the way I learned those systems is because I messed it up before. So, sometimes that's how you learn in life. You mess something up, that's how you remember. You learn that as kids as well. Here's a question. Rodney notes, felons can vote in some states such as Illinois. Yeah, so it is, thank you, Rodney. It is, the felon vote issue is a state-by-state issue. It's not a federal uniform law. So different states have different laws depending on the state, and sometimes they come and go. I think, and I don't remember what the status of that in Florida is. I just know that's an issue in Florida. So sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, and across America, the criminal justice system falls disproportionately on African Americans. Let's call it like it is. I was going to say some populations, and it's true, some populations, but African Americans. So if you're not letting felons vote, that is, it can be disparately impacting the you can't vote if you're a felon rule is disparately impacting those groups of people, the same way that the criminalization of certain drugs was, or the 3 strikes you're outlaw is, or stop and frisk laws. Those can be good ideas in a vacuum. Ideas about not, putting people in jail if they're dealing drugs. I get it. Not voting if you're a felon. I get it. Stopping and frisking people because you don't want criminal elements in the city. I get it. Good ideas in the abstract, but in their application, that's where the rubber meets the road. And so sometimes we pull back on those laws, undo those laws, because we see that that's not the solution that we first thought. Does the difficulty in getting full compensation go up as the amount goes up? For example, the last 20% of a settlement is harder than the first 70%. What changes as the amount goes up? That's a great question. So that's it. There's a lot that goes into that. So that's really true. So I will have cases where someone had another lawyer and they come to me and they say, hey, they got me a $10,000 offer in the case. And I'm like, well, the case is worth $100,000, so thank God they got you 10 grand. That's the easy money to get, right? Yeah. It's easy to get the first 20%, 70% of the settlement, 50%. I mean, how do you settle a case for $1 million? You start with a $2 million case. It's a joke, right? But it's so, yeah. I mean, there's a tension between a quick settlement and a high or a full settlement. So we try to settle and resolve cases quickly. But at the same time, if the insurance company knows we're chomping at the bit to settle the case, they're not going to give us the best number. I find on the cases that are worth it in terms of the value of the worth it. Because if someone has a lower level case, they don't want to litigate it for 3 years and then have to settle it. What a waste of time and effort. But if someone has a very substantial case, they do, because this is their one and only chance to recover for this. If they sign the release, they're never recovering any other money, and they have significant damages from that. So you want them to be, and that's my job, is to put as much money in their pocket as I can when it comes down to it. That's my job. So, and there's a lot that goes with it, but that's it. So, it's a little bit easier. It's easier to get the first 50%, 70%, but getting that last 10 or 20% to get the full value of the case that's the hardest thing. And so how do you do that? Well, what you do is you file suit, you litigate, you take depositions. I find myself taking a lot of depositions. I have for years. I'm always taking video depositions. I have this little video kit. I video all my own depositions. Now I do them on Zoom and things like this. But I videotape my depositions, I sync them with the transcript, and I use them for mediations and other ways. I play them at trials. We take a lot of doctors' depositions for treatment, doctors' depots in med-mal cases, the defendants. We videotape the depositions, we get ready, we go and we ask for trial dates, we move cases towards trial dates. Many times, cases resolve at a good value because the other side knows that we were going to try this case, we know how to, and we're going to go in and get a good result. And I was just joking with someone in my conference room. We have all the plaques and articles on the walls to show it, and we brag about ourselves somewhat. It's not a humble brag. I mean, we do brag on our website. We have all these results and this kind of stuff because we want to have that transparency. We need to tell people what we do and that we're good at it, and not from a braggadocious point of view, because it's hard to get information. I always say, I have this in a chapter in one of my books here on the website, is how do you choose a lawyer? You kind of know how to choose a car or car dealer, or you want to get a contractor for your house, or you're trying, there's things we choose in life, right? Doctors anyway. How do you choose a lawyer? No, they don't train you for that. No one knows that. I'm getting these questions now, and I get these all the time. How do you know who a good lawyer is? Because everybody says they're great. How do you back it up? Who's going to back up the what they say? Or is it all show, or do they back it up? All hat, no cowboy, or so whatever the Texas phrase is. So how do you know who backs it up? It's hard to know. And part of it goes into that is who gets that last 10 or 20% in terms of the amount of the settlement. So you go to trial, I take a lot of video doctors' depots getting right before trial, and to finish this thought is, when they know you're ready to go to trial and you have everything teed up, that's when they pay you that good significant amount of money. I can't tell you how many times, and I say, listen, if I wasn't doing all this stuff, they wouldn't pay me. It's kind of a catch-22. We do all this stuff to get ready for trial, but if you're ready for trial, they're gonna see the whites of your eyes and they're gonna cave and they're gonna settle it. And and that's a dialogue that I know I'm going on a little bit on this, but that's a dialogue that I have with my clients. So I like to say, by the time my clients settle these cases, they're educated. They know they're a educated consumer to make the decision about whether to settle the case. So that's good. So that's my hope, is that by the time we're there to settle it, they really know the numbers, they understand what juries do and that kind of stuff, and that they're ready to make a informed decision on settling the case, because they got to sign the release and take the money, which is tax-free, by the way. Personal injury cases, we talked about personal injuries and emotional distress earlier. Personal injury cases are not taxable events. You don't even put them on you don't even have to disclose them on your tax return. It's one of the few ways that Uncle Sam or the government ain't in your pocket anymore. Sales tax, property tax, income tax, real estate tax, fees, etc. Not in personal injury cases. Let me go to the next question. Thomas Hobbes once famously said that a world without laws and the threat of punishment would be nasty, brutish, and short. What are your thoughts? Absolutely. So we have rules and laws. We have them for a reason. They all come down to being safety rules. Rules of the road. I can use a prop. See if I have a prop here. Nope, I'm not in my office. Yeah, I do. Here. The rules of the road. Missouri Driver's Guide. You can tell I flag them. So this is so we have rules, and that's right, and that's true. They're safety rules. So why do we have rules about seatbelts? Why are we telling people now why are we telling people now to wear masks? Why do we have construction rules? Why do we have these rules and laws? It's mostly about safety or regulation. So yeah, because part of being a human is we kind of, and capitalism is we kind of fight each other. You know, look at the politics today. I mean, the discord in America, which is supposed to be the freest and fairest place where we have empathy, where we welcome everybody. Send me your poor, your starving. Bring me your immigrant, your huddled masses. Where's that attitude anymore? So anyway, but as humans, we fight each other and we argue and that kind of stuff. So we need to have rules that protect us. And it's all on perspective. Everybody's perspective. You know, some people look at the Black Lives Matter protests and say that. I mean, I saw the video. I watched the whole video of the guy in Kenosha, Wisconsin, being shot 7 times in the car. I can't believe it. It's terrible. And then the young white guy is walking around with a AR-15, being given water by police. No one does anything, and he shoots and kills 2 people. Now I know we're going to get more facts on this, but that's the facts that I'm reading them today. That's a sad world we're in. It just drives me crazy. But you know, there are other people that are anti-Black Lives Matter because they see, or it's promoted that the peaceful protests turn into violence and burning and looting, and that's what they see. And different political sides promote different side of that stuff. The point of this soliloquy is that one man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. It's on how we perceive things, and so we need rules to protect ourselves from our bad natures. Maya asks, how do you quantify damages that will last throughout your lifetime, like PTSD, limiting your job prospects, or long-term effects of having a scar, limp, etc.? So it's hard to quantify. I don't want to really give away all my secrets on this video about how I talk to jurors about that, but I do. And, you know, I want to know what people think about that. Ultimately, how does Gary quantify that? The question is, how do you quantify it? How do you as jurors quantify it? Because how much empathy are you going to have? How much are you going to walk in another man's shoes in a jury? Are you going to say it's not me, so I don't care? I'm not going to compensate my brother, my neighbor. That's why we have the jury system, is to hopefully have a societal judgment on the value of those things. And I tell you what my thoughts are on it, but I'm going to leave you as a juror to decide, Maya, and then or Rodney or Rosina. And some of the so some people have different views, and then jurors work it out and hash it out, and jurors get it right most of the time. I mean, people talk about runaway jury verdicts or that kind of stuff, but if you talk to judges or jurors or that kind of stuff, jurors see the evidence, they get it right 99% of the time. They see through. If there's BS in a plaintiff's case, they'll see through it right away. If there's defendants to be held accountable, they will endeavor to do that. If there's damages to be valued in the future, even the intangible stuff, they will do that. Now, it can be a little bit hard, because what if you have PTSD or a scar or a limp and you don't have anybody to sue for it and you never got paid for that? Are you going to have empathy for someone who the only reason they have that is because of the needless rule violations of another? So those are things. Oh, I was going to show you. So, on my driver's guide, I use these in the rules in depositions all the time. So we say, like, stopping distance. Here's what your stopping distance is. Here's how you should follow other vehicles. Here's what you should do. There's all these rules. So the rules are tips for avoiding crashes. These are the rules that drivers have to follow. Safe driving and tips for special driving conditions. That's how they, winter driving, the signs that say, do you know why the signs say slow down in inclement weather on bridges and overpasses? Is because the ground is warm. So if you have a roadway on the ground, it's going to keep the ice and snow water. You're going to have less ice and snow. But when you go over an overpass, the water that is accumulated there turns to ice and snow quickly, because there's no ambient earth temperature to keep it warmer. And also there's wind that goes underneath and cools those areas. So you will have, and that's I learned that in the driver's guide, in that book I just showed you. It's physics also. So there you go. Any word? Rosina asked me any word on the DOC lawsuit. Thank you. I really appreciate the question. No word, Rosina. No word on the DOC lawsuit. It is still pending before the Missouri Supreme Court. And here's another question by Gregory. Gregory, any idea when the Supreme Court will respond? No, we do not know when they will. We do not know when they will. Oh, I think I just put something. I think I just showed that. I don't know what I just did on that. We do not know when sorry for the delay. I was playing with my screen there for a second. So we don't know when the Supreme Court will render their decision. We look forward to them, and we look forward to we look forward to getting the decision. Did you know that there is a ethics rule barring or constraining the propriety or appropriateness of talking about pending decisions? You're not supposed to talk about cases that haven't been tried yet, or decisions that haven't been come down yet. And I can talk about that. I have views of it. That's not really what's constraining me. But there's no point in me putting a video out on Facebook telling the Supreme Court about what I think about the case, because I already did in a really well-written brief, and I argued it to the Missouri Supreme Court. So Gary will answer your question. Oh yeah, so we have a DOC page for Rosina, for Gregory, for everybody else who emails me. We do have a page on the website, Missouri Department of Corrections class action, that provides all updates and statuses. I don't send out emails all the time on this because I have no news. The case was argued a little over 4 months ago, and we're waiting a decision. Courts can take time. Thank you for your answer on the felon topic. Do the individual states also control gun ownership laws if you are a felon? Yes. Or is that a federal law that prevents felons from owning a firearm? There are federal laws. There are federal laws as well. So there are, in our system, there are federal laws and there are state laws. Sometimes they're overlapping laws. What about look at the marijuana issue? Some states legalize it, some states legalize it for medical purposes, and the federal government criminalizes it. So there you can't keep. So you can have contrary laws as well as laws of different jurisdictions. So yes, a yes, there are different laws for felon voting rights. And then gun control. So you can have gun control licenses, and that was all state by state on concealed carry or open carry or how they do that. You will also have federal rules overlaying that about being able to get a gun if you have mental health challenges, or if you're recently, you have a restraining order against you, or you have domestic violence issues or other things. So there are federal laws that overdo that, but those laws can come and they can go. So the Brady law based on, Brady, when Brady was shot, that I saw George Bush signed, that law went into effect and constrained gun ownership, but then it was repealed or it sunsetted and it's no longer the law. So there's very little, there's less federal control of gun ownership and use. What is a kangaroo court? I giggle a little time every time I hear that term, and I can't bring myself to Google it. Well, Brennan, I think a kangaroo court's a fake court. I would just Google. I would just Google it. I mean, that's another way to say I'm not sure. No, a kangaroo court is a fake or a contrived court where the result is not chosen beforehand or likely beforehand. So you're not going to get a fair deal. Judge Kavanaugh of the U.S. Supreme Court just reversed the sixth conviction of a man in, I forget, Alabama or Mississippi, a southern state, where a white prosecutor convicted a black man. Now, he was convicted, it was a quadruple homicide. Maybe he did it, I don't know. So it was a terrible crime. The problem is that the prosecutor, out of 6 trials, there were 42 African-American, the defendant was African-American. There were 42 African-Americans on those jury panels over those 6 cases. He struck 41 of 42 of them. So you're not having a jury of their peers. And the studies show that integrated juries of different races, backgrounds, inquire into the facts better and have better, more accurate verdicts, not just for one side or the other, but they look at the facts more. So you don't want to be, that's the To Kill a Mockingbird, right? I mean, you don't want to be a 1950s African-American or immigrant with an all-white male jury where you're not going to get a fair shake. So I'm sure there's kangaroo courts and there's different ways to talk about kangaroo courts or that, but that's why the jury, if you want to look at the John Oliver on HBO did a show. It was a little bit goofy. I don't think it was totally accurate, but he just did a show on jury selection and how jury selection in terms of the right to strike jurors without giving an explanation, or for-cause jury strikes or peremptory challenges, and that's all different state law too. That's not just federal law. So those can yield that. Kangaroo courts can be true under arbitrations. Sometimes with these arbitrators, they know they get the business from the defendants, so that they have a high degree of motivation, a high degree of a lot of reasons to rule for the big consumer companies where there's these mandatory arbitration clauses. That's why arbitration isn't necessarily a fair way to resolve claims. Those are my thoughts on a kangaroo court. I got a lot more questions. Thank you for putting the poem up about what's on the Statute of Liberty. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shores. Send these, the homeless, tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp because of the golden door. So, yeah, boy, what a great idea. I don't see that idea being true right now. We're putting kids in cages. Our current president puts children, 2-year-olds, in cages. It makes me want to cry. I have a 2-year-old. I have kids. These kids didn't choose to be there, and who cares why they're here? We're a huge country with a lot of land. We can take these people in. These aren't just people sneaking in to have anchor babies. There's no big conspiracy. There's no march or what did he try to say, that there was some parade or march of terrible criminals that are going to kind of invade our country? That's not happening. We have good border control. We've had it for a long time. Maybe it needs to be improved a little bit, but not putting kids in cages. How different is putting kids in cages than that quote that is in the comment section that is inscribed in the Statue of Liberty? I'm about as white as they get. I'm blonde-haired, blue-eyed. My people were Irish and German. After the turn of the century, when they came here, the Irish were considered the pariahs. They were jokes. We weren't getting jobs. We were treated like the immigrants today are. That's how they were. My great grandfather had in his German bakery in Chicago had bricks thrown through it and was completely ostracized and treated terribly because they were German. Now there was a war going on, and I understand World War I and War II, but every immigrant people that when they come here, what about the Italians? How the Italians were treated? Now those are now all the white people that are all the established people now that we've had a couple of generations. But how quickly we forget what it would be like to be a tired, poor person being without any hope in a country, just trying to live a life. How lucky are we to win the lottery to get born in America and live in America in 2020? How blessed are we? Davey asks, if I were to slip and fall on an icy sidewalk outside someone's house, would the city be responsible, or would it be the person who owns the house? Whew. Well, you don't know it, but there's a lot of things that go into that question. So, if I got ice on my property, on my driveway, or on the sidewalk going up to my house near my front entryway, that is my property, and I own a duty to keep it safe for my guests, not trespassers, but guests. So if I invite you over to my house, Davey. Now, however, there's also the law says that if it's a natural accumulation of snow and ice, that's an act of God, and if I don't try to clean it up, I don't have any liability. So if it's just ice and snow on my yard, I don't have to tell you about it. I'm going to try to get you guys to see the river too. I don't have to tell you about it. There is no ice and snow on today. That's the Eads Bridge. The Eads Bridge was repaired and a lot done to it, but now they've closed it off because people are racing across it and racing in downtown St. Louis. There's an article about that in last weekend's Post-Dispatch. So if it's an act of God, I don't have to clean it up, and I'm not liable for it. However, if I do try to clean it up, if I do try to shovel it or put ice melt on it, then I have a duty to do so non-negligently, and I can be held liable for that negligence. So if you ever slip and fall on ice or snow, you want to look around and make sure that they did try to shovel. There was ice melt somewhere. They just didn't do a bad job on that piece of property, that area where you fell. And St. Louis, or the Midwest, is the capital of melting and refreezing. So if water accumulates, melts, pools in a puddle overnight, refreezes, and is a frozen black ice in the morning, we all see it. We've seen it a million times. We've slipped on it. I have. You're liable for that. You can't have black ice pooling in your parking lot. Now, let's talk a little bit more sidewalks and houses. Sidewalks, so where the McCloskeys lived, that's a private subdivision, gated up, and those are private sidewalks. However, where I live and other places, if it's not a privately owned, constrained area, those are public sidewalks. and the city does have a duty to keep an area free from dangerous conditions. However, a city does not have to go out after a snowfall and shovel every sidewalk, or else they're going to be liable. That's just not the law. If they don't shovel it, it's an act of God, and they're not liable again. Same rules for that. There's also immunity for the city, but they'd waive that immunity for icy sidewalks as well. So there you go. And look, mostly on sidewalks, they're not shoveled, so you're not going to have a case. That's maybe an easier way to answer that question. All right, I'm going to keep trucking. I've been going for 50 minutes. I'm going to try to answer the rest of these. Thank you for the resource page on how to choose a law firm. Gary was quoting the statute of liberty. We got that. Excellent answer on the settlement percentages. Is there a specific method that usually forces the insurance company to raise their offer? For instance, if you have a doctor's letter that backs up your claims, what makes an insurance uncomfortable and offer more? So, yeah, what you want to do, yes, there are pressure points, and there are pressure points that I know as lawyer, and my staff knows that we do. So, yeah, an MRI showing a herniated disc, so backing up the medical, a doctor's report saying that what the significance of the injury is, saying that what the prognosis, that's a chronic condition, you're going to have pain in the future, you're going to need a future surgery, that you were asymptomatic, never had a problem, and then all of a sudden you're in a car wreck and you have a herniated disc with referred pain through your arm, and you have hand numbness, and then over time you have atrophy or muscle loss. You have objective signs of injuries that are usually more persuasive rather than me saying, hey, I'm hurt, because they think, hey, maybe you're making it up. So an objective sign of injury like an MRI or a CT scan, or a EMG, an electromyelography showing a loss of nerve conduction, permanent nerve injury, atrophy, a lessening of the muscle mass. So if I'm injured and it affects this arm, over time I will have less muscle mass that you can measure with a tape measure than the other side. And so doctors measure atrophy or loss of muscle tone or volume. And then you give them an opportunity to settle, and then you take it back. You say, listen, I'm going to give you this window to settle this case. And if you don't settle the case in this window, we're going to go file suit. My client's going to sustain other damages, and we will never give you this chance to settle this case again. It's called and if you don't settle this case, you are acting in bad faith towards your insured. So I send out a newsletter every 2 weeks, and I have for about 5 years now, without missing. Some people do it more. It's all good. The one I did this morning was on bad faith. So I'll have my guys, all the great people that are supporting me in this firm and stuff. We're gonna make our bad faith page more robust with some of the stuff I wrote this morning or late last night, and also I did a CLE, or continuing legal education, presentation last week to a bunch of lawyers where I taught them about bad faith claims. And what a bad faith claim is that the insurance company owes a duty to its insured to settle a case within the policy limits and not subject their insured, their customer who bought the insurance, the person who was negligent, to an excess judgment or personal liability. And when they don't do that, when they don't so protect them and take the opportunity to settle a case within the policy limits, they subject their clients, their customers, to that excess judgment. So we give them a period of time, a window of time, saying, you can settle this case in this window of time and protect your insured. But if you don't act reasonably, and if you don't act in good faith, if you're in bad faith, then we're gonna yank that offer. We're gonna go file suit, and my client's gonna incur thousands of dollars to take doctors' depositions, do all this work that we told you about. Their fees are gonna increase. They're gonna have it, and then we're just not gonna offer this settlement again. We're gonna go get a big judgment, and then we're gonna go pop the tops off that insurance policy and get our client a bunch of money and get the bad faith case assigned to us. There are other methods that force the insurance company to raise their offers. There's medical, but you got to prove it. Wage loss damages, showing that. You got to prove it. You got to remember, and I can talk about bad faith in insurance companies and we pursue those cases, but at the same time, the insurance companies, you got to show them there are many okay insurance companies. I want to say good. I kind of don't want to say that. There are good insurance companies. There's good adjusters out there that want to adjust claims and do it with propriety, and you got to give them a chance to do that. Kelly asks, if our government law system were run like a colony of bees, what do you think might look like? So bees are very organized. Bees have specific rules. It's a monarchy, though. It's the queen rules everybody and tells everybody what to do. And if you don't do it, you're gone. The other bees are going to do that. The queen tells her orders not via rules and laws, but by using pheromones and scents and songs and dancing to communicate to the bees, and puts out that the queen will say, all right, we're going to build comb now. We're going to build honey now. We're going to make more babies. We're going to do this. And then they do it. And if they don't do it, that's how the hive lives. That's how you as a collective and us as a society lives. Now, we don't have monarchs anymore because power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So the problem is that we're not all, our rulers aren't all like queens. We're really trying to do what's good for the colony. They're trying to do what's good for themselves. So that's the corollary, the footnote to us being like bees. Is it hard not to crack a joke and keep your personality in check when you're in court? I'm gonna do. Oh, I should make a video on bad faith cases. You're right. I'm gonna close out with this for today. So I was reading this transcript of this trial I did, and I was like arguing and stuff, and I was like arguing to the court, and I said something, and I was like, boom, mic drop. And I could read, so you're reading me on the transcript and you see me say boom. I'm like, you had to be there. You had to know it. And so, yeah, it's not keeping a personality in check, but you got to have fun in life and you got to have fun in court. And you got to remember, in court, they're all people. The judges are people. You don't want to overdo it. And it's not like you're a stand-up comedian or anything, but you got to have some levity. You got to laugh at yourself a little bit. A lot of it's self-deprecating, like how I'm making a mistake. What I do in depositions all the time is I say, I'll mess up a question, and I'll tell I did this yesterday. I said, I messed up that question. I'm going to start over, and I'm going to mess up 3 other questions in this deposition. And then as we go forward, I mess up other questions, and I count them off for the people, and it's kind of a joke we do. I do. No one else does. I think it's funny. And then when I'm done, I'm like, all right, and then I'm going to have my last bad question. I say, all right, I can't ask any more bad questions. So, I try to make running themes or jokes, and I'll try cases where I'll make jokes in the beginning, at the end of the week, the jury, I make the same joke, or I do a callback. Like here I'm moving the camera. You do a callback where you go to the comedians do what they said in the first thing. So yeah, you got to have fun doing that stuff, and it helps you hone your craft and task load you, so you're not just so narrow-minded, focused on that. You want to, and when you're trying to case and in life, you want to take the blinders off, look, environmentally scan everywhere, because you're going to see stuff. And I teach lawyers all the time, when you're doing direct and cross-examination, you're doing stuff, don't just sit and look at your notes. Sit back and listen. Look what the jury cares about. Listen to what that deponent, the guy on the witness stand just said. That's where you're going to get your best question. So that's all I have. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching our Facebook Live show today. I'm done. Everybody have another great week. I think I got one more show in August. Can you believe it's almost September? I'm not ready for September. It's almost like it's fall. It's crazy. Everybody, thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Take care.